Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's July 31st. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it is Thursday, so no chart lessons on Fridays anymore. So this will do it for the week. We won't be back until Monday. Um, Quick look at the daily chart. You can see another big down day today. Started out again low volume, looked like it might be a range day. But we ended up pushing lower and selling on down. We didn't make a new low yet compared to the other day, but we're going to close lower, it looks like. There's still an hour and 15 minutes left, so we could close higher before it's over. So it's a little early. I'm trying to get this done. I'd like to do this at 2:30 or 3 every day, but it's just hard for me to get to it by that time sometimes. But that's my goal, is to try to get this thing done at 2:30 or 3 every day, where I can get it up earlier and I can get out of here earlier. So that's my goal, but if I don't make it, you just have to don't shoot me. You just have to bear with me. So, but anyway, you can see the big bearish day. Let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart and you can see what it looks like over there. Okay, here's our 2,000 tick chart, and you can see we had really three big legs down today, and from there, um, we rallied only to start down again, but it looks like we might be finding some support in here. It's after, well, after 2:30 now. Maybe prices will bounce again, or maybe they'll still go lower. I don't know. There may be a bigger channel in here, but I don't think it really helps you. Um, that certainly looks valid right there. Um, I don't see that it really helps you. It might have given you a little more incentive to enter here, um, but you still have room to scalp out there even without that trend line. So, uh, I think that's there if you saw it that way. Just be aware of it. I don't think you need it. I think you had to zone in tighter than that and to a smaller time frame to really realize what's going on. But there's clearly a leg down correction, leg down correction, leg down correction, and it looks like we're trying to make another leg down now. Usually three swings like that, and that's going to be pretty much the end of it. You're either going to go sideways or reverse. Uh, Not like I said, nothing's ever 100% in the market, so we could still go lower. But generally, after three legs down like that, you're going to get some kind of a bounce or at least sideways action. But let's zoom in here and go through the trades. There were a couple of news items at 7:30 this morning, high volatility stuff. You got your core PCE and your unemployment stuff, um, and they're all high volatility. And so you had to mark out this little area right here. And you can see there was a little bit of effect, not amount, doesn't amount to much. So you really couldn't start trading until after 7:30. Um, and I just don't see anything in here that's worth trading until here. Notice you got a new low there, and you get a first entry, then a second entry, short. But you can't go short there yet. It's not a good enough setup. Plus, it's your first close outside. So we ended up breaking higher here and failing and turning down. Again, you can't trade that on the engulfing bar, but maybe you go short right here. I meant to mark this green. I actually, for some reason, put a red one there, but that should be green. And the reason being was it didn't break lower on this next bar, and so I still think maybe it's worth taking, but it's not perfect because you're really entering on this inside bar. So a lot of times you're better off just to skip a trade if you got to enter on an inside bar. And if you use that bar for your signal bar, it doesn't really qualify. So, uh, but maybe you still enter there, just because it did break higher and probably trap people. And you can see it ends up moving on lower. I don't see anything else down here. And you get a failed breakout um, after, and this looks like an overshoot to me. So it's a possibility that maybe you say, okay, I'm going to try to go long down here. But that's never a smart move, really. You're better off to wait on the higher low, which comes here, and it doesn't qualify. Um, so definitely, if you're going to be trying to pick a bottom in counter trend trading, it needs to be a perfect trade, and that's not anywhere close. So it runs up, gets a close outside, 2 legs up. It still doesn't make a new high here, but I don't really see a short entry here unless you just play that as a lower high. But it looks a little congested anyway. And then we bounce. This, again, the red bar is your signal bar, so not good enough. And this bar is not good enough for a short either. And you can't go short into the lows. Now you do get a failed breakout here. Again, that's one you might argue to be green. Just trading it as a failed breakout. But I think you need a higher low. And that you actually get one here, but you don't. You've already got a close outside, so it may just tick up a tick or two and turn down. So I'm not crazy about that one. But when it tried to go higher a third time here and failed, well, it's probably going to push on through. So maybe you take that lower high. Even then, it's a little bit risky. I'd probably skip it. Then we just kind of move on down. That's just a first entry. We'll make another new low. First entry, second entry right there, but that looks too congested. So really what you have is a little tight range or congestion area right there. And we get a little failed breakout the high side of that on a triple test. So I like going short there. We're making lower highs and lower lows, so there's a good chance we're going to go lower than right here. So anyway, maybe you take that trade. That's just a first entry, and then you get a first entry, and it turns back up and turns down again. A break below that bar is another second entry. I like that one. And then you get a higher low right here. I like it. And we pushed down. We went through the lows on the range there, but we rallied back. So that one's, to me, is tricky because there's not much room there. And if it bounces, which it tried to do, if it bounces there, you're probably in trouble. So I think you just have to skip that one. It continues to turn down off that key entry point. There's a second entry short here as well, but it's on an engulfing bar, and you don't want to go short at the low of a move. It runs on down. First entry, and then a break below this bar is a clear second entry. And yeah, you're just taking a second entry with the trend. Definitely close to the lows of the move there. But I still think maybe you take that, so I marked it green. Runs on down again, bounces. You do get a first entry, second entry, but this is your first close outside, and you don't have a new high yet. So I'm wary of going short just yet. I think you need to make a new high, and you do, and then a few minutes later you get a lower high here. I like trading that on a lower high. And you run back up here. Well, we already talked about that. You're working sideways here, and you get the close outside a new high, and then you get a lower high right here with a very bearish bar. I like going short there. And off to the races it goes. That's just a first entry. First entry, and this is a good example of why you don't try to pick bottom. There's a lot of people watching that probably they were interested in going short right here, and probably even the lower high too. But we've already had a close outside. We've already had a new low, and that's just a first entry. And this is just a first entry. So I think you have to just kind of sit tight and do nothing there. And then it runs on down. And then notice you get another second entry short right off the EMA. You've already moved a measured move here too, and it's gone further now. You're actually pulling back to test that breakout area. And that is a second entry short. And I drew that arrow just to remind myself to talk about it. But I don't think you can go short there because there's been no close outside the trend line yet, no new high either. So just sit tight and wait. But you finally get a close outside the new high, and no setup there. There is a lower high on the inside bar, but I wouldn't take that. And then it bounces and it's going higher again. So just no setups in there. Runs up. These are all just first entries. And finally it gets a first entry, and then a close outside and a new low all in one bar, and a break above that's a second entry long. I like that one. You're going to probably retest this high. We may be going back to the range. And so off it goes. You would have got a nice runner. That's just a first entry. There is a second entry here, but it's an engulfing bar, and when the bar closes, it doesn't qualify. So uh, you might have traded that on the engulfing bar. It's only like 6 ticks, but I just don't think there's enough room to get out there. Maybe you trade that one, but I'd skip it personally. And then another little quick pullback, and then we're still working higher. And we finally kind of top out here and then make a lower high. And so I like entering short on that lower high. That turns out to be a really nice move. And you make a new low here, and then look what you get. First entry, second entry, and a chance to go short right off those first 2 swings there. Nice signal bar. Boom, off it goes. There's actually another second entry here. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry. But that signal bar does not qualify. But a break below that bar right there that I'm pointing out, a break below that here is a second entry. Now you might have wanted to look at this as a reversal, but technically it's not. So I don't think you can enter there. And this was our measured move down based on the width of the original range too. So there's a good chance we could bounce here. But you need a good setup. And of course it runs up, and you do get a close outside in the first. Actually, it's questionable there, but you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry here, but that just looks too congested and sideways. But then it tries to go higher again. So now you've tried to go higher 3 times. You got a fairly bearish bar. There's plenty of room back to the EMA. It's not ideal, but maybe you take that one. Turns out to be a really nice move. There's another second entry there, but that's just too congested. I didn't draw it, but it's too congested. You can see it right there. Breaks out, fails, comes back, gives you a first entry and then a second entry. And again, you got another engulfing bar, but you've already had a break in new low. So even though you got a second entry here, you're going short at the low almost of this move, or at least the last 2 legs down, and there are 2 legs there, so it could reverse and go higher. So I would sit, and you've already had your break here at a new low. What happens is you end up getting 2 legs down to a new low here. If you measure them, you'll see it. But but I'd still sit tight, and there is a second entry there, but no setup. I don't think you want to go short at the low of that move after 2 legs down. And then this is 2 legs back. And normally I'd say, hey, it acts like a second entry. It's probably going to play out like one as well. But the problem here is you've already had the break and multiple swings to a couple of new lows. So every second entry or every setup here to that continues with the original trend gets riskier and riskier. Just like right here, it turns down. And a bunch of shorts probably get trapped when it breaks lower and fails and flips the other direction and runs straight up. I guarantee they trapped some shorts there. And you don't want that to happen to you down here, so you just have to be real careful now. But we did make a low. We did get the break and a couple of swings to a new low, and then you get a higher low here. So maybe you go long. You still got way back to the EMA, so you're overdue to come back. And you don't know if it's just going to take off like it does, but it does. And then we're just chopping sideways here. I don't see anything short or long. This is tempting, but it doesn't break below, and then you get another inside bar, so it makes it congestion. So you really can't go short there. Then it breaks out down here. Most breakouts fail, so maybe you take that first one. But, I always tell you you're better off to wait on the high or low, and that comes here. So that's the better place to enter, and it runs up. And what does it do? It turns down right at the highs. And we've tried to go higher 3 times there, so that's a triple test as well. So once again, you got a second entry short there. The problem is it's only 1 leg up. This is sideways stuff, so that's just 1 leg up. But really, you're still playing range rules and not necessarily trend rules here. And by the range rules, you can go short right there. And it just drops on down. That's just a first entry, and these are all first entries down until we got into 230. Now, there is a second entry short here after 230, but that's too far gone and it looks too congested anyway. So there it is. That's how I saw it. there were a few decent trades today. Lots of movement today, mostly all down. So maybe our rallies at least found a high temporarily for now. We'll see what tomorrow brings. But there it is, and that's how I saw it. And again, tomorrow's Friday, so no chart lesson for tomorrow. So we won't be back till Monday. But I'll be back Monday, and we'll start again. We'll start another week next week. Hope you had a great trading day today. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.